Faced by countless psychological enemies, Zimbabwe requires a knight in shining armor, the voice of reason, which serves as the light to fight a darkness thick as seven-folded nights, in bid to rectify and make things right. This is the voice of reason.
First and foremost, let me talk about the high prices which have been going up for a number of weeks or if not months. We're glad to see that many retail outlets are now starting to decrease their prices. This is in line with what's happening with the economy right now, and obviously the SI, which was the social instrument which was issued, which reintroduced the Zimbabwe dollar. However, would like to thank the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe. Personally, I think that that's the role of the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe, to raise awareness within basically the nation in terms of what consumers should be doing. Consumers in Zimbabwe have not been protected for a very long time. We've seen industry and some of the players really putting exorbitant prices because they know that people want these basic commodities. And in actual fact, that's not the spirit of Ubuntu that we expect within Zimbabwe. And so when we see the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe coming up with such noble notices to consumers that they should ignore the shops which are charging exorbitant prices, I think that is quite noble. Apart from that, I think it's very important that this is a good opportunity now for SMMEs and the Zimbabwean people who would like to go into business within the retail sector. We cannot afford to have a monopoly within the retail sector. We need to have good businesses which are grounded on corporate citizenship, which have got the Zimbabwean people at heart. This situation where we had all these businesses which were coming across and declaring ridiculous amounts of profits over the last few years would not make sense. I think Zimbabwe recently announced that they had 150% profit, and for a retail giant which moves volumes more than moving specific margins, that's quite concerning. Looking at the historical financial statements, you'd see that such retail outlets would not go above 50% in terms of their net profits. But when you see a big retail giant making 150% profit and it doesn't even have that many outlets like other retail chains operating across Africa, then that shows you that seriously we have a massive profiteering syndicate which has been going on within the nation. The other part as well is that for CZI needs to come in and start working hand in hand with manufacturers. We need our industries to start making Zimbabwean products. And Zimbabwean products have to be operating or have to be produced within a conducive environment which makes them not only locally competitive, but also regionally they have to be competitive. As it is currently, some of the industries have been struggling to make competitive products on the market, and as a result you'll find that products imported from South Africa or from other neighboring countries tend to be more affordable as opposed to our own products. So we would like the CZI to work with government. I think it's very important that the CZI engages government and starts to work on a robust industrial development framework, which I want to believe that Minister Love has already put in place, which should see our local industries starting to be resuscitated. In regards to the consumer, I think the Confederation of Zimbabwe Retailers, I think they need to be educating their members on the fundamentals of good corporate citizenship. I think it is important that retailers understand that the dynamics of retail are based on volume. Dynamics of retail and distribution are based on volume and are not necessarily based on you increasing margin. So it doesn't make sense that when they import something for 18 rands, when it comes in Zimbabwe, it's now $18 or what they were doing before. There has to be a paradigm shift in the way retailers behave within the Zimbabwean context. Allow me to also speak to you about our local government authorities. The bulk of the Zimbabwean local government authorities are managed by the opposition party, the Movement for Democratic Change, MDC, or henceforth the MDC Alliance. It is quite concerning, I think, to any Zimbabwean. I'll not speak just as a national director or as a director within the ruling party. I'll speak also just as a Zimbabwean citizen, that for us to have local authorities that have not produced financial statements since 2014 is a cause of concern. I think this is unacceptable, and this goes to the very core of what we mean when we say there's something wrong with our government systems. For us to actually go from a January to December calendar month and fail to account how we're using public funds is unacceptable. So we command and we applaud what has happened with the Auditor General we commend her that she has come across, for the first time we're seeing the real issues which are happening in local government. Now all of a sudden it starts to explain why roads are not being serviced. It starts to explain why bins are not being collected. It starts to explain why water chemicals are not being acquired. We're seeing also, even with the city of Harare, that people were spending 200-something thousand to do repairs, yet they could have spent $187,000 to actually acquire new equipment. So I think it's fundamentally important that the government starts to look at the implementation of corporate governance within our local government authorities. There has to be a systematic change, there has to be a paradigm shift in the way that our local governments are managed. Apart from that, allow me to touch also on the base of state-owned enterprises. Together with local government authorities, their failure to be able to be profitable, their failure to be able to be accountable has led over the years to this great and huge government deficit, which government at 40% has had to come in year on year to try and cover up. Now we're looking at a situation where should local government authorities and state-owned enterprises and government departments themselves start to comply financially, start to report financially, not only are we going to have more transparency, but for the first time we're going to actually start to put an end to corruption. For the first time we're actually going to start addressing the very core elements of where our problems are coming from as a nation. Apart from it, apart from adding to the fiscal deficit, we've also had a situation where there's a lot of rampant corruption within local government authorities and state-owned enterprises. There's been a blind eye from the ruling party when it came to local government authorities, but we're clearly seeing that there's a problem even in the state-owned enterprises, and government needs to start making sure that such entities do not destabilize the economy. Thirdly, I'd like to talk about the new Zimbabwean currency. Our currency, as you know, is the pride of our nation. And as a nation, we need to move in one direction. We cannot have elements which continue to trade in US dollars, in pounds, rands, you name it. As a country, we're not going backwards in terms of our currency reforms, and it is our wish and our prayer as a nation that Zimbabwe goes back to its glory days. Government now needs to put in legal frameworks for prosecution of those who are defiant to continue using the US dollar, even though the president, the head of state, and the government is putting a statutory instrument which says that we are no longer on the multi-currency regime. So we're hearing people on social media continuously encouraging each other to use foreign currency as the mode of fiat in this country, and that is unacceptable. So whether you're in Torashanga, you're in Chivuya, Lutito, wherever you are as a Zimbabwean citizen, you should know that your right is to be sold any goods or services in our local currency. And the police, I hear that they're doing a commendable job in arresting people. It should not end there. Such crimes are economic espionage. Such crimes will take us back to yesteryear when our economy was in shambles, and yet we are trying now to bring it back to glory days. So as it is, such crimes should have harsh penalties, if possible, jail sentences, so that the country knows that we're not going in this war. Likewise, the foreign exchange or the Burundi changes which have been licensed need to also comply with government laws. If there are people who've been licensed, let's encourage our citizens to go and change their United States dollars, their pounds, or anything else. So if your child or your parents or whoever it is sends you money from overseas, from the diaspora, do not take that money to the road port. Do not take that money to change it illegally on the black market. We are going to destroy the black market. The black market has got no space anymore in the new dispensation. The black market is not the general people. The black market is not the citizens of Zimbabwe. The black market is a handful of people that have been going around profiteering from the suffering of the masses, and we have to bring an end to that. Likewise, we've heard from the minister, and it's been going around on social media, that there's been local companies which have been borrowing at less rates, at good interest rates on the local market. And some are saying that they've been making up to $3 million a day, trading that money illegally on the black market. And what we need is for government not to always just speak about it. We need action. If we know who these companies are, let's name them. Let's stop protecting people who are hurting the economy. Let's name them, let's shame them, and let's make sure that this never happens again. Our prudential laws as a country, from a Reserve Bank stature, should protect the Zimbabwean people, and add confidence in our financial systems. If our financial systems are not going to be protected by good prudential laws and corporate governance, which enables us to be able to be a reliable country when it comes to balance of payments and everything else, then we've really not done much. Lastly, I would like to call on every single Zimbabwean to say, this is the time for us to be saying good things about our country. This is not the time to politic any fiscal policies and monetary policies that we put in place. If you have good ideas, let's bring them forth. The president is a listening president. The ZANU PF is a listening party. And this country is full of intelligent people who know exactly what they want from this government. I think it's a time when we need to be spending more time speaking good about our country to create a good and harmonious investment climate. The time for us to trash talk our country is gone. And unfortunately, those who wish us bad as a country are going to be shamed over and over and over. We are supporting our young people, we're supporting our old people, we're supporting everyone who stands up and says no to corruption. Corruption has no place in Zimbabwe. But likewise, everything we're going to do as a country has to be fixed by Zimbabweans, not third forces, not third hands. The economy of Zimbabwe is on a good trajectory. We are heading somewhere. The Transitional Stabilization Program, I implore our young people to read it. It clearly states where we are going. And there's no narrative that anyone can bring across that can try and justify a shutdown, that can try and justify disability, to create an environment where we've got instability within Zimbabwe. As we are operating right now as a country, I think Zimbabwe is going places. May God bless Zimbabwe. Thank you.
This is the voice of reason.